Greetings, it's me, Loose Juice. You may have been wondering what I'm working on ever since I released Siege, and that's what I'm here to tell you all about. I know you already read the title, but I'm working on a game engine. The engine is called Omni. I'm making it in C++, and I've been working on it for well over a year now. Today I'm going to tell you what inspired me to start this project, how development is going currently, and what my full plan is for the engine. The question that I get asked the most when I tell people that I'm making a game engine is, why? There's already so many out there, why not just use one of those? I totally understand that making a whole game engine is a ton of work, and it's not like making one that's even halfway decent is an easy task. However, I've done quite a bit of thinking, and I've decided that this will be a huge benefit for my career. You see, I'm really tired of relying on huge corporations like Unity. They make some really shady decisions that are very obviously made to pump monetization into everything. I feel like they are no longer interested in actually helping people make good games, and the state their engine is in absolutely reflects that. Even though I think Godot is a great engine that deserves more attention, there's actually one small issue I have that isn't their fault. See, because Godot is open source, there's some things that they aren't allowed to do. Specifically, what I'm referring to is getting access to console SDKs. When you want to make software that runs on a certain console, you have to request a copy of the console's SDK, or software development kit, from the company who owns that console. Since Godot is open source, just anyone could download the SDK from its source code, and that's not something the SDK owners would want. Developing for consoles is something that I plan on doing in the future, so this turned me away from going all in on Godot. Godot is a wonderful engine though, don't get me wrong. Engines like Unreal and GameMaker are great for creating graphically impressive games and 2D games respectively, but I felt like I wanted a more general-purpose engine. Even though Unreal can make 2D games and GameMaker can make 3D games, I just don't want to limit myself by having to deal with their unique workflows and limitations. I want to make many different types of games, so I'd rather not stick to an engine made more for a specific type of game. Alright, I'll admit it. Even if it weren't for all these reasons, I would still want to make Omni. Not only do I want to learn all about creating a game engine, but I also came up with an idea for an engine that would perfectly suit my needs. I spent an entire month just planning out the engine before even touching a piece of code, and I believe that my vision for this engine is very unique and will revolutionize the way that I create games. After I was all finished planning, it was time to get to work. I was in a situation where I didn't have much free time for many months, but now I have days of free time on my hands, so I've gotten tons of work done on the engine recently. So far I have windowing, inputs, logging, 2D and 3D rendering, font rendering, 2D physics, physics debugging, a GUI toolkit, profiling, an entity component system, a scene system with saving and loading, the start of an asset management system, and a stylish editor environment. Once I have the scripting system, the asset management system, and the sound engine up and running, it should pretty much be version 1.0. I'm going to focus on the 2D side of things up until then, but I'll focus on 3D more when I can. The performance of the engine thus far has been pretty great actually, which is exciting because I still have a ton of optimizations planned for the future. Also, I've sort of been loosely following the Cherno's game engine series while developing Omni. It's super good, please give it a look if you're interested. You're likely wondering what exactly is supposed to be special about this engine, so let me explain. Omni was given its name because it can essentially be whatever you need it to be. I don't just mean that you can edit the source code, but its design is all about extension. In all of the modern game engines, you can't really make a new component. You can only attach a custom script inside of a script component to an object. There is much to be gained by being able to create your own components, so I came up with what I'm calling the Component Domain System, or CDS. You are able to add a C++ script to a global list of domain scripts, and from within this script, you can manage the components that you've made. To take full advantage of the performance this will bring, make sure each component only has data inside it and no methods. Domain scripts have a very deep level of access inside the engine's internals, so there's a lot that you can do with them. There's another way of using domain scripts that takes advantage of this level of access. The engine's main functions are set up to where you can completely override them, so you can literally rework the entire rendering pipeline if you wanted to. I'll talk more about this in the future, as this is by far the largest concept in the engine. The sound engine that I plan on using is Fmod. I've become a firm believer that Fmod is really the only sound tech to use in games now. There really isn't anything you can't do with it, and seeing how this engine is already made with higher leveled game developers in mind, I think it only makes sense. Some people like to say that using Fmod in games that don't use dynamic audio is overkill, but I think that's silly. It doesn't subtract from the experience in any way, it's only there to aid the developers in making their game. Using Fmod does mean that every game made with Omni will have to give credit by showing the Fmod logo, but this is a small price to pay for its versatility and power. Once I feel that pretty much every bit of foundation has been laid for the engine, I'm planning on going open source on GitHub. It wouldn't really make sense to go open source when not even the first revision of the game engine is done, but after that I'd appreciate some pull requests if anyone wants to contribute. I do have the feeling that no one will be so interested in using the engine. It is quite suited to me, but I hope that it may suit someone else as well. I know that I was talking about how being open source prevents other engines like Godot from using console SDKs, but I have a plan for this. Once I gain access to some SDKs, I'm going to make a copy of the engine that is not open source and includes the SDKs, and I'm going to distribute it in places that I'm allowed to, like on the private developer sites that companies like Nintendo and PlayStation have. I know it's been over half a year since the last video, it's just that I kept wanting to develop the engine more and more before showing it off. I wanted to show it off very badly, but I always wanted to add just one more thing before making this devlog. This of course ended up spiraling out of control, and it ended up taking way too long to get this video out. I've literally been writing this script on and off since like a few days after I uploaded my last video. I learned from this for sure, but also I doubt that anyone has been like on the edge of their seat waiting for a new video. I'm aware I have very few viewers and my content doesn't really appeal to many people, but if you're watching this and you're somehow like Loose Juice fan #1, my apologies. I think the next video should come much sooner, and if you're ever worried that I'm done uploading, I promise that I will continue to upload unless I make it explicitly known that I'm done making videos. I have a lot of ideas, it's just that I'm often held back by my own emotions. So always expect something new unless I say something about it. One more thing. I want to tell you more about how I chose the name Omni. I wanted to have a short and punchy name like Valve's Source, but I was also intrigued by adding the suffix ware to the name like the engine renderware. One of the early names I thought of was Omniware, but it was already the name of a line of dinnerware. Honestly, I chose Omni because of the modular design, like I said earlier. But for those of you who know me, you know that I identify as omnisexual. Yeah, it may have influenced me. But I'm just gonna embrace it. So I officially dubbed this the world's first game engine. Hooray! Alright, I'll see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed and have a good day.